Hello everybody and welcome back to another video. In today's video we are going to be taking a look at Sheldon Creed's 2022 Whelen primary scheme from the NASCAR Xfinity series. Of course, this is the second episode of Pitstops, and this is a really cool car. Whelen has sponsored a couple cars over the past few years. They've been getting more and more into sponsoring NASCAR, and they've run this exact scheme pretty much every single time, with the red hood that has that, I don't know what kind of pattern you'd call this, where it's like the I'm trying to figure out what kind of word I would use for this. Kind of like the like a cat ears pattern, where it kind of goes out like that. If you know what I mean. You can see it right there. And they've used almost this exact same paint scheme on almost all the cars they've sponsored. Like they sponsored Austin Dillon's car in 2021 at the Roval. They used this paint scheme. Andy Jankowiak's ARCA car looks like this. Of course, the Whelen scheme for Creed that you see right in front of you looks like this. There might be a couple other ones that I've been forgetting, but they really like using this Whelen scheme, and I don't have any complaints about that. Because even though I'm not a usually big fan of red and white, this is one of my favorite paint schemes for some reason. It's just so good. So you have the giant Whelen logo on the hood, manufactured in America. Of course, you have that slick design that kind of goes from those cat ears. Those cat ears continue down and then they straighten out towards the rear end of the car. Of course, the rookie stripes. This was his first ever full-time season in Xfinity. I got the big old Whelen logo on the sides, which you can actually see has that same pattern. You can, if you look at that, it's actually, what's the word, parallel with the design on the hood, that logo, which also has that bend. You have Trench Shoring Company on the side. We'll talk about that in a second here. Whelen logo once again, as well as the two Team Fox for Parkinson's research on that deck lid. The roof is also red. You have Creed on the rear windshield. Let's look at the base just to see what's down there. One thing that stopped me from buying this car when it first came out is you can see the Xfinity banner is black. If you watch NASCAR, you'll know that the Xfinity banner is actually supposed to be purple. Ever since Xfinity did their rebrand at the start of 2022, they required all Xfinity cars to have the purple banner instead of the black banner, which they usually ran. So this is what the banner should look like, where it's that Xfinity purple instead of the black. Luckily for us, they required all cars to run that in the regular season. But starting with the playoffs, only cars that made the playoffs had to run that purple banner to signify that they were playoff cars. And Creed unfortunately missed the playoffs. He came really close. He got really hot at the end of the season, but he wasn't able to make it. But he missed the playoffs, which means for the remainder of the season, he was running the black banner. So this car was inaccurate for a really long time, but it is now accurate to a few races he ran, like Phoenix 2, Martinsville 2, a couple other races. So this is indeed a car that ran on the track, an exact replica, but for a while I was mad that they messed it up. Here is Mike Snyder's 2021 number 2 car. He was the full-time driver in 2021. You can see they both kind of have a design that goes down, but not the exact same paint scheme, of course. The red roof on both. Just two of the same car. Of course, Snyder was replaced by Creed at the beginning of the 2022 season. Here is the only other Richard Childress Racing Xfinity car that they released from the 2022 season. There is a couple cars that DNP'd, and there's a couple Austin Hill promos, but as far as I know, nobody's actually seen those yet. They're just on some shipping lists. So that is Jeffrey Earnhardt's 2022 Forever Lawn number 3 car, which only ran one race at Talladega. That was a pretty cool story. So they were teammates for a while there. Fortunately, we will not get an Austin Hill diecast to complete that full set unless they do decide to release that promo or those promos to the public. Of course, that Chevy front end, which you can see on all the Chevys. There's the 2022 Chevys. I do have a couple more that I didn't take out of the case. And then there's the 2021 Chevy front end. So pretty much the same. Of course, it varies based on what the paint scheme looks like. Like you can see the black on my car kind of makes it look different from some of the other ones. And then going back to trench shoring, that is the company that sponsored Sheldon Creed when he won the truck championship in 2022. So here's the raced version. From that you can see like the donut on the side, all the grime on the front. You can see there the trench shoring company. Of course, that logo was much bigger. For the majority of the 2020 season, his truck was mostly sponsored by like Chevy and other smaller sponsors like Trench Shoring, who was on his truck when he won the championship in the number 2 truck. So he's been running the number 2 since like 2019, I think is when he started. He ran the 2 truck from for GMS from 2019 to 2021, I believe. And then from 2022 to the current day, he's running the number 2 for a different team, Richard Childress Racing, in the Xfinity series. So he's got a history with that number. This is, as I said, one of my favorite paint schemes from the 2022 season. Glad it got a diecast. I think it was originally scheduled to DNP, but it was saved, luckily. And yeah, that is pretty much it for this episode of Pitstops. Hope you enjoyed. I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.